Battlefield trophies. Hey there, so I got this new box with Battlefield trophies. As you can see, I was interested in this box for a while already, and I want to have a look at it because there's a couple of interesting things in it. And the main thing I was interested in were the servo skulls that you can see here. Comes with quite a lot of servo skulls, and servo skulls are one of my favorite parts of the 40k universe, and I was interested in the ones that came in this box. Now, if you open the box, there is going to be 4 sprues in there, and I'm going to look at all of these and see what's interesting about them. So this box is actually a bit close to the skulls box, which is I'm a very big fan of. One of my favorite Games Workshop products, which is just a box with, I don't know, 240 skulls, which is a basic necessity of all Warhammer fans. And the other thing I was wondering is what's the difference between this box and the skulls box, because the skulls box, if you look at the box and the all the information, it's quite clear what you get in there and how many of each skull that you're going to get. And for the trophies box, it's there's a lot less information, and I had no idea what was actually going to be in there. But let's start with the servo skulls. So the first thing I noticed is that they seem quite a bit smaller than the servo skulls that come with some certain miniatures. So this one is from some Tempestus Science, I think. Yeah, if you hold them next to each other, you can see that these skulls are indeed quite a bit smaller. I think they really based them on the skulls from the skulls box and then added all kinds of greeblies to them. But if you put them really next to each other, you will see that they're a bit smaller. The detail is still great on them, but the size is just a bit more tiny. Here's also 2 skulls with some ports at the back. I don't know if there's skulls from servitors or something, but I thought those looked quite cool. And if you look at the total amount of servo skulls that you get, there's only actually one that you cannot use as a separate servo skull. I think most of them are, because this is the trophies box, they're supposed to go like on the base or something, like crash servo skulls. But I think all of them except one you can salvage and use them as actual servo skulls, which is quite cool. So there's some nice bits in here. This is probably the only one that you really cannot use because it's simply cut in half straight through the lens. But for the rest, there's some cool stuff. There's these small arms as well with some scissors and a needle. I think you could use these for all kinds of cool projects, not necessarily only for the servo skulls. And then we have this weird big skull. I think it's from a bone giant or something. I don't know, I don't recognize it. There's lots of dead space marines, some dead guardsmen, and some dead sisters of battle. Now here's the skull frame, and I was afraid that this was going to be really close to the skull frames that you actually get in the skull box. But I was very glad to see that it's actually not necessarily the case. So the top row here, that's all kind of standard skulls that you also get in the skulls box. But then here you have a row of mutated skulls, which are really cool, and all of them are different. I don't think there's any duplicates in there. There's all kinds of weird mutations. Then here is a row with the skulls with the lower jaw still attached, but different than those in the skulls box. So there's a little variation in there, and also with the open jaws, which also you don't get for the skulls box. So there's more difference than I would have thought. This is the Xenos sprue. So there's lots of dead Tau and Eldar and some Nids. and some skulls as well. And these are the like with the broken open helmets, which look quite cool as well. Not sure whether you could actually use them on builds, but for trophies as they're intended, they're quite cool. Now for the nids, I was actually kind of disappointed because these heads are quite cool, but they're all flat on one side. There's actually only, I think, 2 skulls that are not flat on one side. So these you cannot really use for anything else than on the base, except for these 2 over here. But the rest is all really just decoration for bases. I was using nid heads for the hive mind psychers that I used, and I had hoped to use some of these as well, but it's definitely not gonna work. These cracked open helmets with a skull inside are quite cool, and yeah, lots of battle damage and nice stuff. So I think most of these are cool except for the Tyrannid. And here's 2 skulls which I don't really understand. Whether they're supposed to be mutated or they seem to have skills or something. Quite cool, but I don't know what Xenos race that is. Some crude stuff on there as well. Alright, sprue number 3. And here we have to start with a cool orc with a bionic eye. Which is cool, and some orcs with different jaws than the other ones. There's 2 Terminator heads of the Chaos Terminators, and they're flat on the one side, so these you will only be able to use on bases. But these regular Terminator ones are actually full helmets, so with a backside that's not flat. And my guess was, could you use these for actual builds, like for veterans or the battle damaged? And yeah, you really can. The scale is perfect and the detail is good enough to use. So that's some great potential for builds and not necessarily only trophies. Here's some extra weird skulls as well. What is this? Does anybody know? I have never seen anything like this. I don't know what. Those are from the Blackstone Fortress guys. And yeah, more orcs. And then for the orcs, there's also these really tiny ones. I think they're Gretchen skulls maybe. Never saw those, but these look cool as well. And then some broken chaos helmets, which have some very nice battle damage. So these have some great potential. My question was, can you use these as well, just for an actual build? So let's have a look. Yeah, absolutely. Just like the Terminator helm, this will look great on an actual build. So this is a Zinj one, and I also tried out a Korn one, and I think you could perfectly use these for whatever build you're doing. Some Neural as well, Death Guard. This one looks quite cool too. And I think the aesthetic would fit Death Guard as well with the damage. And here Mr. Buckethead, which is always a nice one to have lying around. While doing these, I remembered that I didn't try it for the broken Space Marine helmets from the second sprue, so back to those. And here you can see some cool potential for maybe Legion of the Damned. So with broken helmets with shells showing through, so I think you could get some nice, put some flames in there. Here, this chopped open head is quite cool too. Get some flames in there, and I think you have some cool Legion of the Damned. Here's a half mask with a half skull. There's some cool ideas there, I think. Yeah, great stuff. Now one thing I noticed is that there was a skull on here with 2 studs near his eyebrow, which means that he actually is a Space Marine. And now I was wondering if a skull of a Space Marine is actually bigger than a skull of a regular human, which I would guess would be the case. So did Games Workshop go all the way? Yes, they did. Oh my god, look at that. Wow. They actually made the effort to make the Space Marine skull a little bit bigger than the regular human skull, which I think is a very cool attention to detail. So that's a nice touch. You get 2 of the Space Marine skulls. Yeah, so if you stick these on the base separately, you won't notice it probably, but having them side to side, you really see that there's a difference there. Another one, battle damaged face, that's cool. He's seen some stuff. Now then the big one is the one that Games Workshop seem to be the most excited about themselves, which is a dead marine for the base. They talked about it quite a bit. Yeah, a battle damaged space marine, which you can stick under the boot of your warlord. It's not as detailed as I had hoped, I would have to say. And here I'm comparing it to my own dead marine, which I just built out of scrap parts. Yeah, and they stack up nicely size-wise. Yeah, so that's the trophies box. I think there's some cool stuff in here. I think it has quite a bit of potential, not necessarily only for trophies or base decoration, but also for cool builds or stuff that you can actually use as helmets. And especially on the skulls, it was a pleasant surprise to see more variation in the skulls. I mean, the skulls box is amazing. If you haven't ever bought it yet, do so immediately, because there's so many cool applications for skulls in 40k. So you just need one anyway. And this box has more variation, so that's a nice touch. Yeah, you'll probably see these things showing up in my builds soon enough. And if you have any questions about these things, just let me know, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.